Hello, Internet, and welcome to episode 265 of Verbal Graffiti with your host, Brian Glass, a.k.a. the B-Man, the People's Degenerate. The boys are not coming back to town. The boys are being forced to leave town. And right here, as your host, I'm going to proclaim that we must encourage our boys to be boys. We got to allow the boys to be boys, because if we don't, well, life becomes sterile. Now, let's be a bit more specific. I'm not just talking about any boys, although I am talking about every boy. I'm talking specifically about Tony Romo, Mark Sanchez, and formerly R.I.P. O.J. Simpson. Now, we're not going to get hacky with O.J. jokes, but recently, and I'm sure many of you are aware of this if you're a fan of ball, if you're a fan of sports, Tony Romo, commentator for CBS football with Phil Nance, Tim Nance, whatever, the golf guy, the nerd, the dweeb. He's the color commentary guy for football on CBS Sunday. Tony Romo, former quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. No love lost for me. I'm a New York fan. I like the New York Giants, although I have no hatred for Tony Romo or really the Dallas Cowboys at all. Now, most Giants fans hate the Cowboys, sports hates, that is. And actually, most Giants fans hate Cowboy fans more than they hate Cowboys, the team and the players and the ownership and all that. But me, the Cowboys have never really won since I've been a child, so I hate the Eagles much more than I hate the Cowboys. So I never had any hatred, sports-wise that is, for Tony Romo. I was a bit indifferent to him because we had Eli Manning. We won 2 Super Bowls. Tony Romo, a big goose egg, 0 Super Bowls, 2-0. Why do we hate the loser when we're the winner? So I really had no thought either way of Tony Romo, the player. And the commentator, indifferent, same as everybody else. Loved him his first year when he was predicting all the plays correctly before they were ran. And then they kind of neutered him, CBS, I think. And then I think he might have got a little bit on the sauce, or that's what some people on the internet allege, that he was drinking a little bit while calling the games. Well, good for Tony Romo. And Tony Romo was arrested, a DUI, still has not gone to court for it, so he hasn't been convicted of anything. But CBS, and I'm sure you know this as a sports fan, many of you are, he lost his job. CBS no longer employs Tony Romo to call football games. I'm not sure if he's still being paid. I could be wrong, but he was being paid around $300 million, I think, or maybe that was Tom Brady. But he was paid hundreds of millions of dollars, north of $100 million to call football games for CBS. NFL games, that is, Tony Romo. And CBS, they take him off the air because he got one DUI that he hasn't even been convicted of yet. Now, let me get this out of the way, okay? Well, first of all, remember to like and subscribe and share a short to reel an episode of Verbal Graffiti with your probation officer or with the police officer that pulled you over for your DUI, with any ex-girlfriend that may have burned down your house or apartment, or whatever housing you live in that she burned down. Share it with her. Share it with your probation officer. We got to get the memberships up here at Verbal Graffiti. We are now on Rumble. We are now on Discord. We are on Instagram. We are on X. We're on YouTube. We are on Reddit. We're on all the social medias. And secondly, we say we're not pro drinking and driving here. right? Get an Uber, call a friend. Most likely you don't have a friend. If you're watching me in this Project Verbal Graffiti, you probably don't have any friends to call to give you a ride home when you're out drunk. Right? You probably went out drinking alone because you're a loser, you're a cheese doodle, you're a fan of verbal graffiti, nobody likes you, you're the black sheep in your family, in your community, so you have no one to call. Call an Uber, walk home, get a scooter, don't drink and drive. You could kill somebody, you could kill yourself, you could kill a family, a child, so don't drink and drive. We are not pro drinking and driving here at Verbal Graffiti. Don't drink and drive. Now, with that out of the way, if you do get arrested, if you do get convicted of drinking and driving, I don't think you should lose your job. Especially if you have yet to be convicted of that crime. Especially if you get pulled over and arrested for DUI without being in an accident or causing any destruction or, hurting yourself or anybody else. If you're swerving or doing something a little suspicious and the cop pulls you over, you get a DUI, you shouldn't lose your job, especially if you're a public figure. That's where I'm between a rock and a hard place. I don't want to, as a Giant fan, as a New York fan, I don't want to have the back of a Tony Romo, former quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. But here I am, having to defend Tony Romo and his honor. Now, in actuality, Tony Romo, nobody's done it better than Tony Romo because he's going to get a DUI. It's going to be a misdemeanor. I think in Wisconsin, that's where you guys DUI. Like your first DUI, you don't go to prison. It's just it's a slap on the wrist. You pay a fine, and hopefully you don't do it again. But with Tony Romo, so he gets a slap on the wrist. And then CBS fires him. But if I'm not mistaken, CBS has to pay him out. Well, whatever his contract is, like $100, $200, $300 million. So in Tony Romo, he got fired. So he does not work. And he's still getting paid $300 million. Who has a better life than Tony Romo? And I'm going to be honest. I was indifferent to Tony Romo until I saw him get a DUI. When I saw him talk with the cops, try to do the DUI sobriety test, the way he interacted, the smile, right, the little glaze on his face, no hatred. He was just go-lucky with it. It made me like Tony Romo more than I've ever liked him as a commentator on CBS. And now it makes me want to listen to Tony Romo more. So if I was an executive at CBS, I'd have Tony Romo, game one, no suspension, no anything. I'd have him on with Jim Nantz, and I'd have him talk about his DUI during the broadcast of the game. Because that's what everyone wants to hear about. If Tony Romo was there, game one, CBS, NFL, kickoff weekend, 1 p.m. Eastern time, and you knew Tony Romo was on the call, you're telling me you're not going to listen? You're not going to turn on the tube? You're not going to want to hear what he has to say? You're not going to just put the red zone aside for a moment to hear what Tony... That'd be the most captivating television of the NFL season. It would do numbies. See, the CBS dropped the ball. They should have not only had him there for game one, Tony Romo, that is, they should have advertised it. They should have, every other commercial on CBS should be telling their audience, Tony Romo, we got his back, and he's going to tell his story. A little buzzed during game one of the NFL season. And kind of, he's not the only one. There was Mark Sanchez last year. Now, Mark Sanchez, former a glorious quarterback of the New York Jets. I believe he took them to 2 AFC championship games in a row. At one point, I think it was Friday night or maybe a Thursday night, and he was doing a broadcast like that Sunday, and he got drunk, and maybe he'd taken some drugs, and he beat up an employee on like the side of a hotel lobby or the side of the hotel building, like down the alleyway, and he lost his job over that. But I got Mark Sanchez's back too. Honestly, if I was CBS or ESPN or NBC or Amazon Prime, that would be my go-to team for football. Mark Sanchez, Tony Romo, they're on the call. Who doesn't want to listen to those two talk? Like, those two are fun guys. Those are boys being boys. That's what I expect out of my football players, out of my team, out of my ex-players. Hey, if you're turning on golf or cricket or, one of our figure skating, the Olympics, yeah, I want a Jim Nance. I want somebody who's buttoned up, who has a clean record. But when you play football, or when the objective of your game, of your sport, is to block the person in front of you and knock him on his ass, you got to have some dog in you. You got to have some libations in you. Your blood alcohol content should be north of 0.1 50% of the time. And I know Mark Sanchez, Tony Romo, they drink. Their BAC is always north of 1. I want them on the call. I want to hear what they have to say. And the fact that all the TV networks, the NFL, has excommunicated the two of them, that bothers me. Because they're setting a, what's the word, B-man? What is the word? In court, they set not a standard, not a precinct. What is the word? Whatever the word is. You know what it is. I know what it is. I just can't grab it out of this gutter mind of mine. They said what is the word, B-man? Can't think of it. But they said those two. It all started with O.J. Simpson. He was acquitted of a murder. All right, he was charged with murder of his ex-wife, Nicole Kidman. What's her last name? Nicole whatever, the white blonde bitch, right? He allegedly killed her, OJ that is, but he was acquitted of the crime. And then if you're old enough to remember, OJ, he was on TV. He was a commentator. He was doing calls for games. He was a celebrity. He was a spokesman for brand. He was a brand ambassador for, just regular appliances here in the U.S., regular companies. Like, he was all on TV. He was all up in our business. He was a celebrity. And then he was acquitted of a crime. And none of those networks let him back on TV. Didn't let him be a color commentary for the NFL games. Now, R.I.P. to OJ, he'll never get his shot since he's dead. He kicked the bucket, no longer living, 6 feet underground. God forbid. But we missed out on that opportunity. Like, what would have been more captivating than OJ on the call for an NFL game once he was acquitted of the murders he was allegedly committed? Like, he's innocent, not guilty. He should have been back on TV. Now I'm here. I'm all about being an extremist. So even Mark Sanchez, Tony Romo, I don't know if they do a plea or they're convicted. Even if they're convicted, it makes me want them on TV more. I want to hear what they have to say And I want them to be drunk, drinking, inebriated while they're telling me whatever their takes are on the football game they're calling. I mean, didn't Ray Rice allegedly help a murder and they let him on TV? That's why I like listening to Ray Rice. I could give a fuck about the Ravens and the defense in 2001 or whatever year it was. Him and Ed Reed. Who cares about the Ravens? Baltimore. They can't even rebuild a bridge down there in Baltimore. That's how little this country cares about Baltimore. The Wire. Everyone says that, Sopranos gets all the glory. The Wire was a better show. Hardly anybody talks about The Wire anymore unless you're a dweeb on the internet. All right, oh yeah, I heard about that. I should watch it. I should. Well, you should. All right, and it's a shame that Baltimore does not have that bridge rebuilt that fell down or however it collapsed. We can send all the money over. All right, we're not going to get into foreign affairs and what we should do with our tax dollars. Although I will say some of our tax dollars and manpower and lady power should go to rebuild that bridge in Baltimore because I love the people of Baltimore, although I've never met them. I will shit on your city, but the people are good people. They should have a bridge. Or at least some of the people are good people down there. But the team, the Baltimore Ravens, no one gives a fuck about them. Nobody. The only reason why I care about Ray Rice, not Ray Rice. Oh, he was a Raven too. Ray Lewis was kind of involved in a murder or like secondhand involved in maybe a murder. That's why I like listening to Ray Lewis. Not because he was a great defender, linebacker, but because he helped allegedly partake in a vicious crime. That makes him interesting to me. I believe that makes Ray Lewis, Tony Romo, Mark Sanchez, O.J. Simpson, all these guys, all these ex-players that were involved in vicious crimes, that are currently accused of crimes, dangerous crimes, DUIs, fist fights, murder. That makes them interesting. That makes them, they're flawed individuals. They're violent, but they're also fun. All right, Jim Nance, snooze fest. I talk about golf and the Masters, the jacket. Who gives a fuck? All right? That's, so you got a good voice. And you do the Final Four. I don't want you calling the big games. I want Ray Lewis. I want a guy who knows how to kill. I want a guy who drinks and drives a little bit. Who will, throw a punch at a pedestrian who's doing nothing wrong. I want a wild card up there in the booth calling the game. Because when you have a wild card, like a Mark Sanchez, a Tony Romo, right? When that guy shows up on Sunday and he might have a black eye because of something he did the night before, that's the person I want to listen to. Right? Who was it? Was it Charles Barkley used to have the he used to have that advertisement like I'm not a role model to kids, like I beat people up. Or maybe it was it Larry Bird who like threw somebody through a window in a bar fight or something? Like I want guys who fight. I want boys calling the game. And it hurts my soul when the executives, when the suits kick them out, never to be seen again. Why are you kicking out all the fun? What we're football. Tony Romo is one of us. Now, yes, I'm not saying we should drink or drive, or that he should drink or drive. I already made that disclaimer. But knowing as a fan, that a guy like Tony Romo, on the color commentary for the game, knowing that he's a drunk, that he likes to drink, that he likes to party, be one of the boys, that's endearing to us, the sports fan, the guys without that athleticism, but enjoy watching the teams, the guys who do have that are younger and more athletic, and you can do all the jumps and runs and passes and catches. That we want one of us in the booth. And knowing that Tony Romo is a drunk, that he drinks a little too much, and maybe he drinks on the job. Who among us doesn't drink on the job? All right? I'm not going to be the first one to throw the stone. I ain't throwing the stone at Tony Romo. I should, because he's a cowboy, and I'm supposed to hate him for some reason. But I can't. He's lovable. He's me. He's you. And when the executives at CBS or whatever network or whatever major, TV streaming network, when they get rid of him, Tony Romo or Mark Sanchez, for doing acid or I don't know, whatever drugs he was on, when he's in Zombieland punching truck drivers on the side of a building hotel, when the hotel camera has him like stumbling back 2 a.m, that's us. That's me trying to undo your lock 2 a.m. after you've had 14, 17 mixed drinks at the bar. You left your credit card. You're going to have to go back there the next morning. That walk of shame, the throbbing headache. Like, hey, I forgot to pay my tab. That's us. When I saw the camera, the footage of Mark Sanchez, just like not being able to speak after a night out on the town, on a work trip. That's me. That's you. When I see Tony Romo chuckling, having a ball when the cops are cuffing him, right? Again, not saying it's right. Not saying it's right. But what he was doing before that, drinking wherever he was, that's me. That's you. That's the American fan. That's the sports fan. We know ball. We know how to drink. We like to have fun while we watch our sports. That's a real ball knower there. That's a real fan. So when all those executives, right, when HR and the CEO and everybody, all those people, in the boardroom on the 50th floor on Madison Avenue, when they get around the executive table and they go, we got to protect our image. But CBS, you have no image. You're a failing TV network that has to pay billions of dollars to the NFL to get the rights to the games, because that's the only thing people like me will watch on your network. You don't have an image. You have football. So when you decide to get rid of Tony Romo, to get rid of Mark Sanchez, back in the day, in the prior century, when you got rid of O.J. Simpson, you're getting rid of us. You're getting rid of your fans. You're getting rid of the supporters that help pay the billions of dollars to recoup the money that you paid the NFL to get the rights to their games. So when you get rid of Tony Romo, it's not just him. You're getting rid of all the boys from the community. So I can't come here, episode 265, and tell you the boys are back in town, because the executives at CBS, ESPN, NBC, ABC, Amazon, Prime, Hulu, they're getting rid of all of us. Tony Romo stands for us, right? When he got pulled over in that beautiful truck of his, I'm not saying he shouldn't get convicted of the crime. You do the crime, you got to do the price. Pay the price of the crime. He's got to pay the fine. There should be some type of probation, maybe some drug, alcohol, classes, AA, recovery, learning courses that he should have to do. But on Sunday afternoon, kickoff, we should see him. That bothers me. And I have no love loss. As I mentioned earlier, I have no love loss for Tony Romo. For me, he's just a commentator. Who are Gumball? I don't know. Who's the guy? NBC Sunday Night. Mike Tirico. I mean, wasn't Mike Tirico? Wasn't he accused of following a babe to the parking lot when he was at ESPN? I shouldn't be putting everyone's dirty laundry here in this episode, but it is a thing where. Those guys, they make mistakes, and they should have to pay the penalty of the law. They should have to pay the penalty, with their family and law enforcement and the courts and all the legal entities. Tony Romo, Mark Sanchez, any other commentator, you should have to pay the penalty. Pay the fine, do the courses. If you have to go to prison, go to prison. Do your time. But when you come back out, come back to society. But CBS, they're not even giving Tony Romo an opportunity to speak. They're like, no, yeah, we paid you $300 million, but you got one DUI, and we got to kick you out. Now, there is a conspiracy theory that CBS was not happy about the contract they gave to Tony Romo, so they're using this DUI as an excuse to kick him to the curb and maybe buy him out for less money, and a significant amount of money, but less than $300 million or whatever that contract was for. But I don't like it. It gives me the heebie-jeebies. I'm in a position now where I'm having to defend a guy who just got a DUI last month and a guy who was on some type of drugs, Mark Sanchez, who was completely blacked out and punching, just regular civilians doing, working overnight. But I'm not defending what they did. And don't get a DUI. Don't punch somebody when you're blacked out on drugs and alcohol. But I am defending your right to go out and drink responsibly. And I have friends who have gotten DUIs, and none of them have lost their job. Obviously, none of them are public figures. But at least I would think, well, if you're just kind of a normal guy with a normal W-2 job, you get a DUI, you don't lose you would think that would be the person who lose their job because you have no standing in society. You're just a number on an Excel spreadsheet. You made a mistake. Yeah, it was a bad mistake. You broke a law. You lose your job. But somehow the normies, the NPCs, you drink and drive, you keep your job. Tony Romo, he drinks and drives, he loses his job, and he's fucking embarrassing. We're watching football. We're watching guys run into each other at full speed. This is a violent sport. This is men being men. This is inflicting our will against your will and trying to force you to fall down so we can get in the end zone. Right? It's a brutal sport. It's violent. All the guys on the field, if you're a coach, you want your team to you want players who got that dog in them. Right? You want some players with domestic violence. You'd rather that violence be against a man, right? Someone his own size. But you want some criminals in that locker room. And I'm sick of pretending like we don't. We don't want choir boys. We don't want guys that go down to the children's hospital on Monday morning. We want guys that got a Glock in their locker. We want a guy who could potentially get arrested tonight. We want guys where the team has to have security follow them everywhere they go when they're not at the facility, because who knows what fucking crime they'll get involved in. I want my players on cocaine during the game. Right? I want my guys, whatever painkillers, whatever it takes to get them on the field. I want them doing it. I want my team. I want my offensive line to run a train on an OF model 30 minutes before kickoff. That's what I want out of the team I root for. I don't want just a bunch of ho-hum. We show up on time, we do our work, we go home, and we play video games. I don't want that. I don't want Kyler Murray, a guy who just plays Call of Duty all day. I don't want a nerd on my team because I want to win. And to win in the NFL, you need to be violent. You need to take your opponent, knock him on his ass, and talk trash to him. You got to intimidate him. You got to inflict your will against him. Make him crumble. Just fall apart right in front of you. And Tony Romo, I want him drunk up in wherever the booth is, where the play callers are. Or in the broadcast booth. I want my color commentary person, whatever sport it is, football, baseball, basketball, Formula One. Yeah, I want the play-by-play guy or gal. I want him or her. You be sober. You be the nerd. But the color commentary or the second and third person in the booth, be on the sauce. Right, do a shot every touchdown, every quarter, every blocked shot. Have some type of game, and I want to be able to see it. I don't want you to have to be hiding whatever mixed drink in a coffee mug. I want to see the tall boy on the booth, on the table. And why is that not allowed? And the more I talk it out. Most people, when we watch football or we go to a Yankee game or whatever your team is, you go to a ballpark or a stadium or arena, you get a tall boy. You spend $20 on a tall boy. Fucking ridiculous. We've talked about that before. But, watching sports as an adult, it's really only fun if you're gambling on the game or you're drinking while watching the game. And it's most fun when you're doing both, the gambling and the drinking, while you're watching the game. That's the only reason why sports are as popular as they are. Because most of us, we don't have the athleticism. We're not gifted, with the size and the strength to play these sports. But we can drink, and we could chop it up with the boys, or maybe our gals too. Gal friends while we watch the game. We're all doing that at home or at the bar or wherever you're at watching the game. Whatever your game is that you're watching, you're drinking, you're gambling, you're speaking the truth while you gamble and drink while watching the game. What I mean by that, or to paint a better picture, you'll be, that quarterback sucks. You'll just shit on every player. And what you're saying is true. He can't run. He can't throw outside the numbers. He can't see the middle of the field. Well, what you talk shit. Well, that corner can't tackle. Whatever it is, you're talking shit. You're bitching and moaning about the players, and yet the guys and the gals doing the play-by-play, they're always so nice. They never really call out any of the players. You'll never hear a commentator go, dude, that quarterback sucks. He couldn't play quarterback for a D2 team in college. What's he doing on the field? You gotta get him off the field. That guy shouldn't pick up a football ever again. And they have to be sober, too. So the commentators are the complete antithesis of the people they're talking to, which is you and me and all of us. And it's because these stupid executives kick out people like Tony Romo and Mark Sanchez. I'm sick of it. I want my color guy being drunk. I want him slurring his words like I do when I'm sober. I want his eyes to be bloodshot. I want Jim Nance. Like, I want to see during the middle of quarter, fourth quarter, and they go to the booth. They have Jim Nance. I want to see Jim Nance just kind of elbowing Tony Romo, like, hey, wake up. Wake up. The camera's on us. You got to get it together. And I want to see if Tony Romo can get it together when he's sauced during the middle of the fourth quarter of a playoff game. That's what I want. Bring fun back to sports. That's what it's supposed to be. I get so frustrated. And not frustrated. It's actually not that fun. It must... Actually, I don't know. It might not be that. I'll put it this way. It's not as fun to be an athlete today as it was in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. Back then, at halftime, you could smoke a cigarette. You could drink during the game. I think the 1980s and the 70s, like the NBA, half the players were on cocaine while they were playing. Today, though, because there's so much money to be made from all the players and coaches. They take it so seriously with their training and their diet that, really drinking and doing drugs and even, fucking the groupies. Like, it's there, but it's not as prevalent as it was in past eras. So that always kind of made me feel like, I don't feel bad, but just like, for these athletes. They actually having to try. And nothing makes me relate more to an athlete than an athlete that gets the bag and stops trying. They get that $200 million contract, and they're like, I'm good. Like or a baseball player gets I think it was Jacoby Ellsbury. He got like $170 million from the Yankees and just stopped playing. Like, those guys are, I think, Rendon for... Maybe it was the Washington. What team did he get? Every once in a while, you get a player, gets the bag, and then plays 3 games next season. That's the player I relate to. That's what I would do. I'd show up to the clubhouse drunk every morning. Every day at noon, I'd crack a can, a Busch Light, and start my day. If I had a $200 million guaranteed contract. So it's just, Tony Romo. Here I am, wearing a Yankees jersey, a fan of the New York Giants. Here I am, verbal graffiti, trying to defend Tony Romo and encouraging all of us to, email CBS and say, hey, we want our guy back in town. We want the boys back in town. We want the boys allowed, encouraged to be boys. Because that's all these ex-athletes are. They're boys. And they got millions of dollars in the bank. They don't really have to work. So when you get Tony Romo, Mark Sanchez, it's probably why they don't take the job seriously, being an NFL commentator, because they're already worth millions of dollars. I get a DUI, I lose my job. Whatever. It's not like me. I lose my job, and I'm kind of fucked. Like, I got to get a job right away, or else, bills. I don't have millions of dollars in the bank to pay my bills. It just, man. Wouldn't that be endearing? Endearing to CBS. If CBS came out, they were excited. No, we're gonna back our boy Tony Romo. We paid him the bucks, the big dollar bills. We gave him the bag, so he drinks. So do you. So we're going to let him continue to call games because we know our entire audience, or everyone who views our football games, are drunks. So we're not going to get on Tony Romo for being a drunk or Mark Sanchez for being a drunk and committing assault. I need to be a TV executive. That's what needs to happen. Go suck a fat one.